Hello, I'm FPX Toycat, and Mojang are clearly tired of people leaking their updates without permission because they just decided to do so for the biggest 1.21 feature entirely on their own behalf, which means that we now get to see not only some early previews of the trial chambers like we would if it was a leak, but we also get to learn some very interesting details that are confirmable about things like the challenge of the breeze, the size of the structure and what would stop you mining through it, and indeed this key, a brand new item that they have just shared, and I've only really explained with this one cryptic developer message. What new things have Mojang officially announced? What are the secrets behind it? And more interestingly, when can we play with the trial chambers ourselves? Because it is surprisingly soon. Although, speaking of surprisingly soon, have you considered subscribing to the channel so you'll see the next video that I post surprisingly soon on your homepage? It might just be about the trial chambers as well, because that is coming out incredibly soon. But first things first, the reveal. Or in other words, why did Mojang decide to leak their own update early? Why did they decide to share one of these big crucial features before it's even available in snapshots or betas? This is something we see for the highly edited trailers, it's something we see for very well put together press releases, but to see them just say, oh yeah, here's everything coming before you can even experience it, is something that's quite big, but it isn't unprecedented. They did it for the Cherry Grove, and they did it for the Crafter even a few weeks ago. It seems to be a new format Mojang is doing, basically taking advantage of the leak format, because they realize that when people are pre-excited for something, it's good. When people know what to expect before a snapshot or beta, it means they can pre-process what's going to go in there, like big questions they have for the snapshot, which is what's going on in my brain. But first things first, what did they actually reveal? Well, they revealed a lot of what is going on in this update, and let's go straight into it by talking first about the trial chambers. They've shared a few images directly from this, and I think it's absolutely fascinating, this first one right here, because you see a couple of breezes, sure, but to me it's really cool to see that there's an upper level and a lower level to this structure, and you can see that in this particular room, there's no easy way to get up or down without breaking and placing up. Obviously, this means that you could just stack up a few blocks if you wanted to, but maybe these breezes would prevent you from doing precisely that. It would be very scary to be on this upper level where you expect to be safe, to fall down like 7-8 blocks, take almost, like a third of your health bar and damage, and then have to fight something like a breeze, which, by the way, something very fascinating coming on that later. But we've also seen a hallway right here. We've seen this image, and basically, they're sharing that, yeah, the trial chambers has a lot more depth to it, and from different angles looks a lot more scarier and intimidating and wide open, in my opinion, than we previously thought. They also specifically say that it will be procedurally generated, which means you'll face a new challenge every time you venture into them. So there's one of two reasons they're saying this. One of these is that they're trying to explain to people who don't understand Minecraft that yes, the whole game is procedurally generated, it's not a fixed challenge in everyone's world, and that could be true with this sort of article, but it's also possible they're saying it's procedurally generated because it's more so than the abandoned mineshaft or the ancient city, and so they could be doing some wild things with new rooms that you might not be expecting to see, and a little bit of randomness and higher room counts than we've ever expected. But whichever definition they're using, there are going to be a lot of rooms in this thing, as you can see from this room, which is effectively 2 in 1. We've also got this incredibly long hallway, which shows that there are lots of different vantage points and depths and rooms to the trial chambers, even beyond what we've already seen. Speaking of what we've already seen, they do also give the tiny bit of information that you might find yourself stumbling across resources that'll help you, mobs that'll hinder you, and the trial chambers are home to the playful and hostile mob, the breeze. They give a bunch of details on the breeze. Seriously, look at all of these images. This is a mob that people look at and say, yeah, it's a blaze, but it's made from air. But something interesting they put right here is that the breeze is sure to be a challenge for even seasoned survivalists, especially when you consider that the trial chambers are also full of traps. This implies to me that the breeze is going to be a level above the blaze and deliberately designed so that yes, the trial chambers might just kill you. They might mess you up from even a couple of these guys spawning, because almost all of the images show just 1 or 2 breezes. They are going to be enough of a menace that fighting 1 or 2 by yourself might be your near doom. And indeed, the attack that he has, we know that it can do some menacing things with redstone, but it looks like there might be something more looking at this image with an arrow coming out of it. Maybe there's more to come into when we talk about the secrets, but for now, what exactly have they shared about the trial spawner, which is the big way that breezes will spawn? As we know so far, it is the only way they can spawn, and something interesting that they share is that they originally said that the trial spawner would create different mobs depending on the room you find it in and what's around it. You would actually be able to change what spawns in a trial spawner from the blocks, but now they've confirmed that there are just specific types of trial spawners and they happen to have different blocks nearby them. And because of this image right here, we can tell for sure that if you have bone blocks, it might be cut sandstone, but I think that's a bone block looking at it myself, you would be able to see that husk will spawn around it. And then if you want to know what will cause breezes to spawn, it seems to be this chiseled tough bricks. This means that when you see these swirly tough bricks, you know to watch out, assuming that breezes are as scary as we think. It's one of the big questions about this update, but for now, the big things they say is that the trial spawner is a cunning device that spews out a number of mobs based on the size of your adventuring party, which is basically exactly what was already revealed at Minecraft Live. And so this is the big reveal from this update, lots and lots and lots of images, and now that you've seen all of them, I'm sure you want to dive into the secrets of the reveal. There are three big things which are shown in these images but not directly addressed by Mojang, the first of which is a trial spawner which has white blocks around it. We've never seen what mob would cause those. The second of which is more interesting. It seems to be the breeze doing something with an arrow. And then the third of which is this. As you can see, it looks like it might be a mob peeking out of the trial spawner, but upon closer look, it is definitely a wither skull with an F coming out of it, made out of copper, interestingly, which means, in other words, a copper key which you get for defeating the trial spawner, because you can see, very interestingly, this doesn't have the orange corners. This has just been defeated. When you defeat a trial spawner, you'll get a key of some form, which immediately raises the question of, like, how can a key ever make sense in Minecraft when you can mine through any block, when you can mine round any block? You could never actually have a key that will do anything valuable because you don't need to open doors, except maybe, just maybe, if they're adding this to the game, there is some very big reason for that. But first things first, the first image right here, as you can see, looking down this hallway, there is the trial spawner with some white blocks around it. This kind, again, so admittedly, because it's kind of dark there, these might be bone blocks, but I really don't think so. I think they're quartz of some form, and so this could just be a skeleton spawner. It could be something basic they don't feel the need to explain, but I think there is something interesting, not necessarily a new mob, but a mob we haven't seen in the trial chambers yet. I like the idea. There's also, for what it's worth, if we zoom in a little bit more, it kind of looks like a villager face in the hallway, or a pig face, but that might just be JPEG compression. But there's something down this hallway that we don't know about, and the alt text on the Mojang website is this image shows a look down a corridor in a trial chamber. What awaits behind those doorways, I wonder? And it kind of shows that this room isn't just going to be a long hallway leading to nowhere. There are going to be multiple rooms that connect through multiple places, maybe with some locked doors, who knows for sure. The second thing is the breeze. This is going to be a more challenge, again, a challenge for even seasoned survivalists, and it's going to do something with not just hurting you, not just activating traps, but also maybe with making projectiles against it significantly weaker, because again, I think the blaze is a challenging mob when a bunch spawn and you're not ready for them, but for most people, the blaze isn't a huge challenge for the seasoned adventurer, and so what can they do to make this more interesting? I think the verticality of almost all the rooms we're seeing the breezes in is a big part of the challenge. If you can't attack them with projectiles, but they deliberately exist in rooms where they can float away or where they can make your distance to them much more annoying, that could be a great way to add a lot of challenge for fighting even just two of them. And then finally, okay, the key I have so many theories about, and so this is, honestly, it's good. I don't want this to be a whole video about the key because we're going to learn tomorrow, but there's three big theories that jump to my mind as soon as we learn about the key. The first of which is that, maybe, just maybe, Minecraft is making, the idea for a copper door or something is great. They've shared so many images like this one, where it's like, look at that in the background. It's a copper door that I know is technically openable with your fist, but that so looks like a lock. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, this is silly. It's clearly not a lock. But to me, this looks so much like it is a lock, and so the door could have a lock on it by default, and then you could unlock it, and it might look like this. And so I think this is a really fun idea, but this is my first idea. My second idea is maybe, just maybe, Mojang is bringing in some form of, stone chest like we saw with the Deep Dark. They wanted to have chests that were only openable with keys that you'd find around the Deep Dark to encourage you to explore. I still think this was a great idea, and maybe Mojang do too, so we're going to see some form of chest in the structure that you can only open if you beat one of the trial chambers. I think it would be a more fun way to reward people with diamonds and emeralds and stuff, but that's just me personally. I mean, they do specifically reference that there are resources we're going to find, and a second step always makes the loot more valuable. If you think about treasure chests, because you need a map to find them, which is found in a chest, then you go find them later, they're always filled with very good things. The extra step is a great way for Mojang to make it more rewarding because you have to go through more work. And so the third idea, this is the craziest one yet, and I'm not sure you're ready for this, but what if Mojang is going to make a copper chest that you can lock and unlock yourself. Oh my god, this thing would be incredible. We would have so much more storage, and I'm just kidding. The actual third best idea, in my opinion, would obviously be this one from Vendetta, because they say it'd be interesting if there was some form of guardian obstacle around the structure, like a worm or a centipede that makes it difficult to break in. This is something that Mojang could do around the entire structure, and therefore make it impossible to break the blocks until that big boss or that worm or the beast, or more realistically, the trial chamber itself, is defeated, which means you wouldn't be able to break the blocks, which means you would be forced into the combat to get the key to open the door. Maybe the key is symbolic in that way, but I think actually what is much more likely is to get to different rooms with different trial chambers, you'll have to use these keys, which then has so many interesting implications. One of these is, can you take them from different trial chambers to different trial chambers, or are they specifically got, they got MBT IDs? Do they magically vanish when you leave the structure? I have so many questions I need the answers to, but the second one of these is this going to be one of the first Minecraft structures where you can't really break in? I know the Guardian, the Ocean Monument, is kind of a similar version of that, but there are always ways around it that people choose to make, and so that makes the question to me of what ways around it can we obviously find. And so yeah, these are the three big secrets that I think we can speculate about endlessly, but I think what's much more interesting is what has happened since then. Dogs, in my opinion, is one of the most respectable Mojang employees. I feel like he's very open and honest about the entire process, and so when he responded to an interesting Discord message of someone saying, what if you have secret rooms, why have keys at all? And then he says, trust the process, the keys aren't for what you think they are, this is an early look at the trial chambers, they will continue to evolve throughout the development process, kind of confirming that they're ready to let different feedbacks from the community actually impact the game, which I think is always a good thing to say, but much more importantly, they're saying that what we're going to be seeing at first isn't going to be the full structure with everything fully, finished and furnished inside, but instead we're going to see the first kind of vibe into it. This is absolutely fascinating, and it's made more fascinating when you stop to consider, like, wait a minute, secret rooms? Yeah, almost every structure so far has secret rooms. You might have seen my recent video going through every structure's secret rooms that aren't made obvious, that aren't available to the player. Maybe the trial chambers has these on top. Maybe the trial chambers has a whole host of rooms, more than we've seen with other structures. I don't know for sure what's going on. All I know is that the trial chambers is the most exciting thing I've seen in a while, and so now the obvious questions come out. I have a few of them personally, I'm sure you have your own, but the big questions I have that I'm looking to be answered is, how rare will the trial chambers be? If they're rarer than even the ancient city, that could be a lot of fun, but it means that the end utility to a survivor player is going to be vastly different. The second one is going to be, will there be any way to mine into this structure? Will there be a way to, like, TNT your way into the right places? I mean, obviously, if the blocks are made of tough bricks and copper, that's going to be very hard, but maybe if you've got the dedication to use a charge creeper or something, it might just work. And finally, what does it have that actually makes the player want to go out and seek it out in the same way the Ancient City and the Stronghold have their eye fenders or their tricks for mining below mountains? Will there be specific ways to seek this, or is it designed to be purely random? And also, I guess there's also a fun question, which is, do you think this will be the best way to find copper? I have lots of questions right now, and sadly, I can only give you the best answers in my head, but I will be sharing everything I see with you tomorrow as soon as the trial chambers is out, because fun fact, I am now back from my road trip. If you want a tiny, if you're curious, I went from Detroit to New York via Canada. It was a lot of fun. However, I want to just quickly point out that, like, this was a trip designed in some part to be like, okay, let's take a break after everything that's gone on. But I have to say, for people who like road trips, that's great, that's wonderful. But a road trip is good for keeping busy, which is important, maybe in some ways. But I think it's terrible for actually relaxing. I think it's a kind of good, like, working holiday if that's what you're going for. But just as a pro tip, I think flying is a lot of fun. Maybe I just have my own preference. For some people, driving around is the best thing. But after driving in New York City, I won't be doing that anytime again in a hurry. But yeah, I'm back now in the UK. I'm very jet lagged. It's evening now. I don't know how it got dark. I just woke up. I just landed. None of it makes any sense. But all I do know is that I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.